So this is a presentation regarding, sir. This is actually, so basically we are going to discuss about this. So what I am going to discuss in this presentation is regarding uh, architecture of API with the integration with Lambda. So how the user interacts, communicates. Trigger the API so that it will communicate with the Lambda and the task will be completed. So this is a basic level of architecture what I am designing. So this is an user is nothing but we are trying to access something, and it will be triggered. We will be directly communicating with the API will be communicating with the Lambda, and that this Lambda will be accessing the things from the postman. So this is a platform, actually, platform. So what is an
No, no,
as we have
hold on,
discussed.
hold on. Let me correct.
Yes.
So, user is calling API gateway. Okay, that is
Yes.
correct. API gateway is calling Lambda function. That is also fine. But
Yes,
Lambda
sir.
function is not interacting. Actually, Postman is nothing but your that user
Yeah,
from.
yeah, user itself. Yeah, yes, sir.
Mm,
That's the reason I have mentioned, just to, just to know our so basic thing. So as a platform, we can access it from the website also. But if the logic is different, so to hit the endpoint, we use a Postman website. Then in
correct,
the application to
correct,
communicate with people.
correct. So beyond the Lambda function, basically Lambda function is your Java program, basically in this case. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
who is giving you the REST API.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And within the Lambda function you will have code, and that code will basically, you can think that Java code is there, and that Java code will connect to your database. Like it could be any kind of databases, it could be S3 bucket, it could be cache system, distributed system, and all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
So this is actually this is thing. So what is an API? Is an application program interface. So this is nothing but in a simple words, I could define that this is an interaction between two services. Like from the front end, it will be communicating from the back end to the back end, and it will fetch the data and all. So this is the main purpose of an API. So in this, AWS offers an API the things. So where what is the APIs are used for? Actually, we have an HTTP APIs, RESTful APIs, and in the RESTful APIs itself, we have an RESTful API private, so which is used within the VPCs. We are not accessing or exposing it to the internet. So HTTP and REST APIs are both are different, but the features what are available in the RESTful APIs are bit higher. I mean, the what are the parameters that we are getting will be more when compared to the normal HTTP API. So both the requests will be serving the same, but the configurations are a bit higher in the RESTful APIs. When the WebSocket APIs, so where we use in this WebSocket APIs are in the real-time applications, like for session connection, like chat applications, like in our WhatsApp, Facebook. So the WebSocket APIs plays a crucial role to have an interface in connection with them. So we to communicate, actually. So basic, I would like to give an architecture how this thing gonna happen. So as I said, this HTTP and the RESTful APIs are a bit same, but the some features are additional in this RESTful APIs would be the below one: scalable caching, monitoring, rate limit, security, and deployment environments. Deployment environment, this would be somewhat different when compared to the RESTful APIs. So limited things are there in the HTTP. So let's discuss how this communications happens in our real time. So the user from his device interacts with the and the communication from the browser. So according to the path and describe, it will trigger to the API, and it will as per the our resource name. So it will trigger where it will trigger the Lambda function. So it will just know for where it has to be diverted to. So as per this design, we have from the API gateway, the Lambda is triggering as per the path mentioned. It will know the where the traffic has to be routed to the AWS. AWS DynamoDB, or for the AWS Event Bridge. Or we can even communicate with the another private APIs as well within the AWS account, and from the another AWS account also we can do the same. So this is an HTTP and RESTful API. So architecture. So this is an WebSocket architecture actually. So this goes the same, but the features which are available are bit different when compared to an HTTP. But in this as well, we have that the user interacts with the browser, and the browser, according to the paths, the API get interacted, and according to that, multiple AWS Lambda will be triggered, and it will be. I mean, it gives the input, takes the input, and it will give the information to the user. So this is basically an architecture of an APIs that are available. So now I like to demonstrate in the real time. So how the things works. So basically, I have a Lambda function here. What I have, it is in the runtime environment with the Python. So what I have done is, from the scratch I given the function name and the runtime environment as a Python. So I given a basic permission so that it can access an EC2 instance as well, and basic informations, and the very limited in a permissions by default what the Lambda has given. So after that, I'll be creating a function. So as I already created the function, I'll be just getting into the function now. So in the very beginning, when I configured, the first thing what I have configured was AWS Lambda. Now, if you go and check in this actually thing, one moment, it's one moment, it's loading. Yeah, so what I have designed in this Lambda function is basically a simple logic thing. A simple logic is nothing but a user interacts with the API stating he wants to calculate his discount. What is the total price? So what basically here we have done is, so first we have imported a module, uh, JSON, and then we have configured a Lambda handler as a function. So in that we are giving a event and the context. So we are applied a condition stating what is the condition, if statement, if else condition. So we have given here the variables like price in event. Price is equals to, we are as giving it is an integer. So whatever the input that the user is giving should be considered as an as a integer value. So same the integer with the same thing as a discount. We have going with the discount thing. So in this result, we are applying the logic for calculating the discount part for the user what he is getting. So that result will be stored as a variable, and we will calling in the result function. If the user is giving another input, then we will be getting this message stating that this is not the correct way to invoke a API. So basically, this is how the logic works actually. So as you can see, there is an invoke type API gateway, which is automatically configured by AWS while I was creating an API. So I will be just showing you how I created a API. So I'll be redirecting to the API gateways in the AWS. So you can access the API gateways from here. Don't know, my internet is slow, I guess, today. So that's the reason. API gateway here we can get it from API gateway. So you'll be redirecting to here. So basically, you'll have to go to the direct. So as I said, there is a HTTP API, WebSocket API, REST API, REST API private. So we are going with REST API. So as we are starting from the scratch, we do not have any clones or any templates to be exported from. We are going from the scratch. We are going with a new API. So we need to give a name to the API, and if we are mentioning any descriptions or the metadata so that others can understand, we can even give that. And there are optionals like endpoints within the region or for the edge optimize, so the users can use from anywhere with a very fastly actually. So after that, what I'll be mentioning is I have taken edge optimize and I have created an API. So that API is simple logic API. The name what I have specified is. So in this basically an API. So what is an API? As I already discussed, so how we give this? First thing what comes is resources. So under resources we'll be having, so the methods actually create resources. So I'll be specifying a path here. So as you can see, this is I mentioned, so by this cross origin resource sharing. So this is used to be activated so that our API works with optimized manner. So the resource name, and we have to create a resource here by this, so that a resource has been created. As we I have already created one resource name, that is check. I have created a resource, and in this actually, so in this resource is a method, I mean, is a slash check. Check is a resource name. So in this resource name, I have created a method. So the method what I have used is post method. So in this API, there are methods like put, get, post, delete are the methods that we are used to communicate. So everything has its own. um, I mean, if we are getting any information, we need to go with the get information, get method, and put method, and delete method. If you are deleting anything from the backend, we need to go with the um, I mean, delete. So as how I designed this get API, I mean, in the backend, create a method actually for the slash check resource name. I have created a method. So what is the destination that I need to select? The For me it is lambda function. So where my lambda function is, in the region has to be selected, and the name I have to select. I already selected. After that, create a method. So after creating a method, so this is how I have configured. So this is the request what we will be getting. So check. So here the method type we need to give, as I discussed, delete, get, head options. There are many things put. As we have used here is was post. Actually, we have used this post. So this thing actually, these are the four character four divisions within our API: client, method request, integration request, method response. So these are getting into our lambda function from the client, and from our I mean, our destination, the resource will be transferred to the client. So this is how the flow works actually. So I have tested this lambda function here. So basically here I have given, and we have checked whether the API is communicating with the lambda function. So as you can see, I have given the JSON format to understand with the so that it can substitute within the lambda function. So the price I have mentioned, and the discount I have mentioned, so that these things get substituted within the lambda function. We need to be careful with this lettering, with the I mean, case sensitive as well. They are case sensitive. According to what we have specified in the lambda function, we need to specify here, and we need to run here. We need to check with the syntaxes as well. This is very important. And after that, the body state as the response body, actually we'll be getting the code. Actually the discounted price is 500. So as we have mentioned, the 1,000 rupees as a price, and the discount is 50%. So 1,000 divided by 50%, that would be 500 rupees. So it is mentioning in this way. So as we have rawly defined APIs, how this works, but now we need to hit our API with the postman. So let's see how user going to. So this is the API. Actually, this is the URL. So actually, when I created after the, I mean after creating our the logic we have what we have given to our API, we need to do is deploy API. This is the last step to deploy our API to the staging. So after clicking our API deploy, it will ask us for a stage. So in which we are going to define. So there is a stages in an organization like development, QA, testing, and productions. So as per the if you are using the previous stage and the already defined stages, we can directly select here, or else we are going with a new stage, then we go with the new stage, and the stage name we can give anything like a production or development and all, and create a deploy. After clicking on the deploy, you'll be in the very home page, and you'll be giving a URL to access our API. A URL, so that you can communicate with an API. So I have already copied this URL, and you can even go and check this Lambda function now. Now all as API is already configured. Now directly in the trigger section of the Lambda function, you'll be getting an API gateway. So in this Lambda function, to invoke this Lambda, so API gateway is the only method that is going to invoke the Lambda function. So if you see in this configurations as well, so while directing you redirecting to the configurations page, so under trigger session, you can see that API trigger, what are the triggers that are done in our in our Lambda functions. So the API gateway method, my API name. So my API endpoint URL. This is the endpoint URL. So what are the type? REST API I am using. As I did not use any authentication, it's showing method post resource path. Slash check was a resource path. What I mentioned in the stage was production. So these are the basic metadata of our API. We can see it in the Lambda functions. Now I have copied this endpoint now. So what I'll be doing is I'll be hitting it. I'll be checking in the postman. So I have given the this thing out already here. So what I'll be doing is I'll be just communicating with this thing. So you need to go within the after placing here, you paste the URL of the API, and what kind of API you have configured method type. Post I have done. So in after that, I'll be giving a data to it. So I'll be selecting raw here. So after that, what I'll be doing is I'll be giving a query or the variables key and value pair, so that it get substituted and give the value to it, value of data, I would say. So
This is
I'm
not
just
called query. This is called payload. Okay,
yeah,
it's
payload
called a
of
request payload. And what you
yes,
are getting as a response, that is called response payload.
response payload. Yes. So this is how my this what I have written is in a JSON format. So the thing got substituted, and we have got the output stating that 500 rupees is the discounted price. Even we can give with the another numbers as well. Now as per the logic, it will give the final value. So this is basic the basic configuration of API with the Lambda function. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you.
So your next step will be to configure that identity service microservice.
Sorry, the video what you have given, so that is what you are
So I have shared the repository also, no, for identity service.
saying. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that microservice,
Or run it in a Lambda function, sir.
yeah, that is a Lambda function only. That microservice is
Okay.
integrated with Lambda function already.
Okay. Okay.
Mm. So that microservice you have to create as a upload as a Lambda function. Okay. Then you have to map that Lambda function with the API gateway.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Then when you call this API, then inside that microservice, whatever APIs are there, you will be able to access them.
Okay, okay, got it, got it. So if you don't mind, please share that again with my
Microservice.
yeah,
Sure,
Microsoft.
sure. I'll share the repo again.
Okay, okay. Thank you. I'll be stop. Can I
Yeah,
stop it?
you can stop it. Okay.
Sure.
So I will tell the next slot for the next person. Okay, as per the word.
Okay,
All right. See you guys again.
okay. So thank you.